Last week we did a creation moment on faulty science, and I wanted to continue this week with the scientific theme, but this week looking at one of the tools of science. Hence the title of the creation moment, What is carbon dating? And we start with the scripture which is found in 1 Corinthians 3:18, which reads, Let no man deceive himself. If any man among you seemeth to be wise in this world, let him become a fool, that he may be wise. Many creation supporters are Christians that are also interested in ancient history and like to read about the latest archaeological discoveries. However, they are concerned when, say, some very ancient remains are carbon-14 dated for 40 or even 50,000 years old. According to the Bible, the creation is no more than 10,000 years old. So how does the Bible-believing Christian handle this kind of information? We just look at what we're talking about. Carbon-14 dating is a method based on unprovable assumptions about the past, used to date things that contain carbon, like fossils, for example. It can only give maximum ages for around 50,000 years, and yet carbon-14 has been found in fossils and diamonds thought to be millions and billions of years old. Just how good are those radiocarbon dates? When reporting an exciting archaeological discovery, popular science magazines tell the reader, for example, that some man-made artefact is 40,000 years old. A few years ago, it was common to find tolerance figures, such as plus or minus 1,500 years attached to these ages. These tolerance figures effectively leave an impression of objective precision in the mind of the reader. Those tolerance figures are seldom used today. Radiocarbon, or carbon-14 or 14C, forms continually today in the Earth's upper atmosphere. And as far as we know, it has been forming in the Earth's upper atmosphere at least since the fall, after the atmosphere was made back on day 2 of creation week, part of the expanse or firmament. So how does radiocarbon form? Cosmic rays from outer space are continually bombarding the upper atmosphere of the Earth, producing fast-moving neutrons, subatomic particles carrying no electric charge. These fast-moving neutrons collide with nitrogen-14 atoms, the most abundant element in the upper atmosphere, converting them into radiocarbon-14 atoms. Since the atmosphere is composed of about 78% nitrogen, a lot of radiocarbon atoms are produced, in total about 16.5 pounds, which is 7.5 kgs per year. These rapidly combine with oxygen atoms, the second most abundant element in the atmosphere at 21%, to form carbon dioxide, CO2. This carbon dioxide, now radioactive with carbon-14, is otherwise chemically indistinguishable from the normal carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which is slightly lighter because it contains normal carbon-12. Radioactive and non-radioactive carbon dioxide mix throughout the atmosphere and dissolve in the oceans. Through photosynthesis, carbon dioxide enters plants and algae, bringing radiocarbon into the food chain. Radiocarbon then enters animals as they consume the plants. So even we, humans, are radioactive because of trace amounts of radiocarbon in our bodies. Now, most laboratories measure radiocarbon with a very sophisticated instrument called an accelerator mass spectrometer, or AMS. It is able literally to count carbon-14 atoms one at a time. This machine can theoretically detect one radioactive carbon-14 atom in 100 quadrillion regular carbon-12 atoms. A very sensitive instrument. However, there's a catch. AMS instruments need to be checked occasionally to make sure they aren't also reading any laboratory contamination called background. So rock samples that should read 0 are occasionally placed into these instruments to test their accuracy. What better samples to use than fossils, coals and limestones, which are supposed to be millions of years old and should have no radiocarbon. Imagine the surprise when every piece of ancient carbon tested has contained measurable quantities of radiocarbon. Fossils, coal, oil, natural gas, limestone, marble and graphite from every flood-related rock layer, and even some pre-flood deposits, have all contained measurable quantities of radiocarbon, All these results have been reported in conventional scientific literature. This finding is consistent with the belief that rocks are only thousands of years old, but the specialists who obtained these results have definitely not accepted this conclusion. It does not fit their presuppositions. To keep from concluding that the rocks are only thousands of years old, they claim that radiocarbon must be due to contamination, either from the field or from the laboratory, or from both. However, when technicians meticulously clean the rocks with hot, strong acids and other harsh pretreatments to remove any possible contamination, these so-called ancient organic, once living materials still contain measurable radiocarbon. Evolutionary radiocarbon scientists have still not conceded that fossils, golds and diamonds are only thousands of years old. Their uniformitarian, slow and gradual interpretation requires that the Earths and rocks must be millions or billions of years old. They still maintain that carbon-14 is machine background, contaminating all their tested samples. Among their proposed explanations is that their AMS instruments do not properly reset themselves between sample analyses. But if this were true, why does the instrument find 0 atoms when there's no sample in it? So concluding, all radiometric dating methods are based on assumptions about events that happened in the past. If the assumptions are accepted as true, as is typically done in the evolutionary dating processes, results can and are biased towards a desired age. In the reported ages given in textbooks and other journals, these evolutionary assumptions have not and are not questioned, while results inconsistent with the long ages have been censored. When the assumptions were evaluated and shown faulty, the results showed that the biblical account of a global flood and a young earth. Hence, Christians should not be afraid of radiometric dating methods. Carbon-14 dating is really the friend of Christians, and it supports a young earth. Thank you for listening.